science is very close to entrepreneurship, because like in terms of the style of what you do and in terms of requirements of your skills, right? They're very close. Very same things are important. You need to be able to really believe in your research, in your topic, right? You need to hire the talents. You need to find the funding. All the same. Everything the same you need to do in business.
Put that coffee down.
Creators are leaders. Be careful what kind of leaders you're producing here.
Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I sucked as a salesman.
They realized that to be in power, you didn't need guns or money or even numbers. You just needed the will to do what the other guy wouldn't.
I'm not leaving. The show goes on.
Well, hello there, friend. Welcome to the Construction Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Bradley Hartman. And on this podcast, we deliver ideas and insights from leaders across the construction industry every week to help you lead more effectively. I would like to thank our friends at Capital One Trade Credit. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're sitting there and you're like, you know what? Capital One Trade Credit. I wonder how their B2B credit programs work, right? Am I right? I know I'm right. Let me tell you, Capital One Trade Credit helps businesses like yours provide B2B customers with buy now, pay later solutions and the online tools they expect while supporting you throughout the order to cash lifecycle. Bam. You thought about it. I gave you the answer. Capital One Trade Credit. Check it out. So as we have grown the Construction Leadership Podcast to people just like you, thank you very much. If I haven't told you thank you for your time and attention recently, I apologize, but I'm telling you now, thank you. I appreciate you listening. We have had more PR firms reach out to us pitching various guests that should absolutely be a good fit for our show. Now, many of these are rather humorous and we're saving them. We might use them for a future episode, but probably not. But every now and then they seem like an absolutely fantastic fit. And that is what happened here, because the minute I got the email and just started reading, I immediately clicked over to their website and had a flashback to an area manager role that I had with Pulte Homes a la 2006 or 2007, when we were really struggling understanding the cut fill balances and the land development process we were dealing with. And this product solves for that. So I'm excited to share my conversation with you with Miss Maria Khokhlova, who's the head of product at a company called TraceAir. So what is TraceAir? TraceAir is a land development platform that uses drones to help measure, verify, and quantify progress on construction sites. And the explanation of the product and the service really interested me, as did Maria. And we dive into this immediately because Maria, she's got a master's degree, she's got a PhD, she speaks 4 languages. She's amazing. And as you will hear, we have some fun with that. For the first, and I believe the only time in the history of this podcast, do I give someone on our show a pop quiz when it comes to the periodic table and the elements found on Earth. That's right. We do that. I had a blast. We also talk about innovation, homebuilder pain points, and leveraging tools and analytics to inform better decision making. I'm excited for this. You are going to enjoy us. I promise. You have my promise. This episode will be of value to you. This is my conversation with Maria Khokhlova, the co-founder and chief product officer at TraceAir. As always, thank you for listening. So Maria Khokhlova, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we have to start at the most obvious point here. You have a background in something that I think so many people I know do. You have a master's degree in quantum electronics and laser physics. You got a PhD in nanophotonics and metamaterials. These seem like made up sci-fi words. What is a metamaterial? What is that?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, well, metamaterial is something which has very, very powerful properties as a material, which you would never expect because it's structured on a very, very low level in a way that the material gets the properties that without the structure, the material wouldn't have, specifically in interaction with light. And people use it in all sorts of different applications. And the fun part is that my PhD program was never really too close to metamaterials specifically. It just was adjacent, but anyways, that's true. That was a fun part of my life.
I can imagine a lot of our listeners have also been adjacent to metamaterials in the past. So do you have a favorite metamaterial? I'm struggling to even think of like what the hell we're talking about here.
Well, the thing is that my PhD program was mainly close to metamaterials, as I said, adjacent, but not specifically about it. So it was more in laser physics in a sense. So the thing that I was doing, it was called optical tweezers, also a very romantic name, which is, I know, physicists are such a romantic people, you would never guess, but they are. So yeah, we were working for biomedical applications of the laser light, and you could use the laser beam to trap very, very small objects like a cell or even smaller, and manipulate that and, do all sorts of fun stuff and, fundamental investigation stuff. That's something that fundamental science is doing, right? Like learning the fundamental properties of materials and objects like cells on the level which you can't without high tech, basically, in science. Yes. And find out very interesting properties and features that you can then apply.
There's a whole wide world of nerdery out there that I'm completely close about. But all right, I could railroad this entire podcast just digging into asking really childlike questions about nanophotonics and metamaterials. But anyway, I won't. So I'm really interested when I meet people like you. You've traveled extensively throughout the world. You speak Russian, French, Portuguese. So far, congratulations. Your English is very solid as well.
Thank you.
I have this kind of working hypothesis that folks that have experienced different languages, that have learned different languages, that have kind of been a stranger in a strange land, they're often able to be a little bit more adaptable, more flexible. I see more transference of ideas that work over here that we can apply here. I'm just curious, does that sound right? Do you think it's one of your strengths is kind of looking at things and being a little bit more innovative or creative with this experience you have?
Well, that's definitely true. I deeply believe that first, exposing yourself to the big world and knowing how different people in different industries live in different countries really gives you an incredible advantage of understanding, of fundamental understanding how things can work, and exposure and examples, and it brings your creativity on the other level. And the languages is the closest thing to it, because without speaking the native language to the person you are talking to, you probably won't get too deep into conversation. So it's also an essential thing. And by the way, I'm not saying I'm fluent in all of those languages, but definitely it helps. Like when you travel and you at least try to be as close to native people as possible, it gives you more knowledge, more understanding. And I found it extremely important both when I worked in science and when I started to be an entrepreneur and when I moved to the US, of course. So that really makes people stronger in the sense that they are not frightened and they are not scared of all the changes in the, how different people in different countries understand our life.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think you think about what we are dealing with on a very personal level, globally, going through the pandemic, but also you get into business and just the speed of change. It does seem to be picking up, and kind of going back to, some of the original physics and physiology of Darwin, which is it's not the strongest of the species that survives. It's the most adaptable to change. And I think if you can kind of think about that in that ways and be comfortable with change and think, I guess I wouldn't have chosen to have this change thrust upon us, I feel confident we can figure it out. The other question I want to ask you, with your background in physics, and prior to us turning on the microphones, you kind of joked and you say, well, I don't use any of that now with TraceAir that we're going to get into. I was reading the I guess it would be an autobiography of, or no, just a biography of Elon Musk. And he was just talking about if you understand physics and you understand the first principles, a lot of challenges, and obviously with TraceAir and dealing with drones and dealing with mathematics and design, he says if you understand those first principles, it simplifies a lot of things. So while you felt like you were explaining yourself in a way where it's like, well, I don't deal with any of that more, and kind of downplaying the masters and the PhD and all that. How much do you think an understanding of kind of the first principles of physics in a really deep way? I didn't even take physics in high school, which people are like, I'm pretty sure that's illegal, but I didn't. How much has that helped you in kind of your career?
Definitely helps a lot. And I wouldn't stress the physics specifically, but just the engineering approach and, well, physics, chemistry, something that you're used to the way that you answer the questions deep enough to really understand the root causes really helps, because it helps with slicing and dicing a complex problem into pieces which are way more solvable, and it becomes easier to prioritize, it becomes easier to roll out any kinds of plans. And for me, it's always easier to understand what's important and what's less important. In business, it's one of the most important things, because entrepreneur gets a whole lot of different problems and risks, etc. And you have to be focused, laser focused, non pun intended, on on what really matters, right? And it's funny that science, well, as a profession, I'm not sure people really think deeply about it, but science is very close to entrepreneurship, because like in terms of the style of what you do and in terms of requirements of your skills, right? They're very close. Very same things are important. You need to be able to really believe in your research, in your topic, right? You need to hire the talents. You need to find the funding. All the same. Everything the same you need to do in business. And I felt like I'm doing pretty much the same. It's just different industry, right? I was in laser physics, and then I'm in construction. And I was actually fascinated by the engineering complexity of construction. Site work specifically, grading, utilities. I never could imagine that it is so. So I was so far away from it when I was in school and academia, but it's extremely mesmerizing.
No, that's well said. And I think about too, kind of the scientific method, which is there's a process where we have an idea, we think something's going to work. How do we test it? Is it repeatable? Is it predictable? This is very much about finding product market fit and seeing is, hey, the way I sold Maria, can I sell that same way to 100 other people that are kind of similar? I find myself when I help my 11-year-old, less the 15-year-old. The 15-year-old's already into stuff that's too complex for me, but the 11-year-old, I'm like, there's a lot of parallels here in your science books that are helpful. But let's dive into TraceAir. What really resonated with me, this took me back to a couple of projects that I was running for Pulte Homes circa 2006, 2007. And there was a lot of topography changes, even though it was outside of Chicago. And we had throughout the entire site, we had balance issues. I doubt you can help on this front, but if you could, it's a value add. If you could figure out in your product delivery and the value you provide, how to make sure salespeople do not sell the homes that are underneath the stockpiles, that would be very valuable. Inevitably, they would sell the house that's underneath the stockpile, and then I have to move the stockpile. But I don't think you can do anything about that here. But tell us about TraceAir and how you're helping the home building community and the people that serve them to be more precise and get things done right the first time when it comes to land development, which is so critical and really sets the stage for everything that comes after it.
Exactly. Yeah, very well said. Like the land development part, the site work part is on a critical path, right? If the risks are there and they result in some problems, that shifts the whole project way more painful than everything else. So yeah, in TraceAir, in general, we provide both software and services to major home builders in the US, and we also let them share the access to our product to the whole project team. So we serve both the owners and all the contractors, consultants, and engineers on the project, because we envision that as the project teamwork, right? And the more team members are empowered by the tools and data to make daily decisions, the better. Because ultimately, the people who actually build, they are either making or not making mistakes. They are either making suboptimal decisions or not, right? So the more people get the access to the data and tools to use this data, the better. But how TraceAir specifically approach that is the follow. So basically, everything starts from the drones. So the drones are regularly scanning the construction projects, let's say weekly, and then the pictures from the drones are uploaded into our software, and then the accurate topography of the project, basically the copy, visual and topographic copy of the job site, is now available through very easy to use tools to the project team. So now basically they are able to compare what is actually there on the job site in the cloud to the design grade, to the 2D civil drawings like grading plan, utility plan, etc., and really overlay them and see what's on track, what's not on track, and measure it. Like just basically select the stockpile virtually and see how many cubic yards are there. Select the area of the whole project site and see, okay, am I balanced or not? How much dirt I have to export or import, and how much money it would take me? How many days would it take for a grading contractor to actually bring the surface up to the design? And the software also provides not only the tracking tools, but also optimization tools, right? It will actually use math to calculate the most optimal and the shortest route for scrapers and other equipment to grade the surface up to the design grade in the most efficient, basically the shortest and fastest way. So now the teams have actual answers on how many cubic yards, what is the balance, how many days, things like that. And the pain points there is that, well, we started the discussion about there are so many risks on the land development stage, on the site work stage. The thing is that they would never go away. The risks are there. For the home builder, the question is, how are you aware about these risks? How you can measure those risks quickly so that you can react on them quickly and prevent them to actually happen, right? So we're not reducing the risks in the way that they will be eliminated. No, it's the fundamental nature of things that the risks are there. But TraceAir is there to really help you quickly see what are those risks and react on them.
Yeah, and I just think about from the building side, and I was on the construction of the homes, and what often happened is we start selling, right? Somewhere either before or during land development, in a lot of cases before, we're making assumptions on how long things will take. Once you start taking earnest money from homeowners, they become very, very committed to having you follow through on those dates. And if land development takes longer, you are just squeezing that cycle time, and you are squeezing individuals like me as a project manager and all the people behind us, including the contractors. So getting an understanding of that is fantastic. So tell me, if you start thinking about, I always want to know from the very beginning, is tell me about the cut fill diagrams and what dirt we're taking away we can use before we put the sod down. How do you guys get involved in there? And maybe I'll ask you just about the drone as well. You can fill me in on both of these. Do I have a dedicated drone that is always on my site, or is there a roving group of talented folks who are pilots that will stop by my site once a week? How does that all work?
The last option. So one of the key features, so TraceAir basically figured out that the service component to actually capture the data, process it, and just deliver is so essential for this technology to be adopted. Home builders they want to do their own thing where they are good at, build, right? So drone work, processing, tech nerdy stuff, that's not what they have to do. They have to use their time differently. So we cover that. It's a turnkey solution, right? So we have the network of drone pilots pretty much all across the US, in different states, and in new locations, we have a framework how we find them quickly within a couple of days. Good news is that the drone industry really jumped so much that it's possible to find people out there, and we use the economy of scale in a sense that each flight becomes cheaper and cheaper for each builder ultimately, because we use the same drone pilots to serve different builders So the more projects, the more companies we serve in a specific geography, the cheaper it becomes basically for the ultimate users.
Well, and what you described in kind of the path the scrapers will take to be most efficient, a lot of our listeners who are coming from the dealer community have been investing with kind of lean professionals and trying to figure out how can we optimize everything from our drivers and their time to fuel consumption to increased safety, et cetera. It sounds like you are helping out on that front very much in the same way, in addition to just saying, hey, we can do the calculation of how big is that stockpile and how many lots can it, help me fill with soil. You guys handle that and a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to think about it as follows. If you think about the, let's say, automatic excavator, automatic scraper, right? There are companies, Caterpillar or whoever other companies are, who actually build the mechanical part of like how this specific part of the equipment should move in a way that it would, do the mission.
Yep.
That's the one aspect. And that's like 30% of the efficiency in automation. But there is another portion of it, which is autopilot, like mission logistics. So for like Google Navigator for the drivers, right? Someone has to tell the automatic equipment where to go in the most efficient way. So we are in this autopilot portion, which basically operates the equipment and people on the project site so that they operate in the most efficient way.
So Maria, tell me about, I don't know if latency is the right word, but that's the word that's coming to mind. If I'm a builder and we're using TraceAir and I see an individual on our site, I see the drone kind of mapping everything out. It's Friday afternoon, it's 2:00. How long does it take for me to say, I really need to know the calculations and the design and the topographical changes for my reporting? How long does it take from the drone in the air to me getting actionable insights that help me do my job better?
Overnight.
Really?
That's also one of the things that we believe is essential in construction, quick feedback loop. So how it works in TraceAir now and what we envision is the most important way to do that, right, is, let's say it's the end of the working day, Thursday, right? Thursday. And by the end of the day, the pilot would come by, capture the job site, and then upload everything, and it will be processed overnight. And then like 6 a.m. on Friday, when the superintendent or land development manager of the company, he will be ready and get a notification into his cell phone that your scan is ready, and log into our platform and run all the calculations, all the visual inspections that he needs prior to actually going to the project. And that is one of the major value propositions in general. I think it's just one of the pain points is that people in this industry, they spend so much time driving, commuting to the job sites. Each person would, each land development manager will most likely have several projects which are distributed a couple of hours between each other. And so you're driving all the time just to basically have a conversation with your contractors and have a fresh look on what's the progress, right? But the thing is that in the majority of cases, you could potentially avoid this commute if you have the copy and visual inspection of your site through the cloud solution. But if you do have to go there anyway for the FaceTime, which is extremely important as well, you're already prepared. You know the questions you want to ask, you know the numbers you want to verify. It's way more efficient.
Maria, I don't want to dive too deep into this next question, but I'm curious. I think our listeners will be as well. Keep in mind that surely millions and millions of people will be listening to this 5 years from now when you guys are ultra successful and you have a successful IPO. But can you tell me a little about the pricing model you use? Is it a subscription service? Is it price per project? Maybe just structurally, how do these generally work with your customers?
Sure, of course. We always try to approach the pricing model from the perspective of the most value to the customer, so that it's absolutely clear what is the deliverable the customer is paying for.
Yeah.
So in the end of the day, as of now, it's basically based on the number of scans. So we usually book the regular, like weekly or bi-weekly scans schedule for, let's say, a year. And the customer pays per scan, But then he is absolutely sure that he will always have his scans Monday morning. And he doesn't have to schedule it. He doesn't have to take care about the, any rescheduling issues or weather conditions or anything like that. He will just care about construction part, and we cover the service part.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But we try to kind of loop it to the actual deliverable that the customer is paying for.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, as we wrap up here, given your extensive background, I do have a fascination with the periodic table. I'm not going to go into why that is. I'm not even going to, my 15-year-old was horrified. He's going through chemistry, and I pulled out this book, which is phenomenal. It's called The Elements. It's a visual exploration of every known atom in the universe. It's incredible.
Wow. I would love to have this one.
You should. You should buy multiple for your friends. So on a scale of 0 to 100, how confident are you in your general knowledge of the different elements that appear on the periodic table?
-10.
-10. That's impossible. It can't be. All right. Would you be up for a little pop quiz here as we wrap up?
Of course. It's fun.
We're going to... What you think is fun is fantastic. All right. Tell you what, I'm going to start off with, in the periodic table, the element that is represented by the letter C. The letter C. Do you know what that is? What's that?
Carbon.
Okay.
Carbon.
All right. Good for you. We're starting off slow. All right. N.
Neutron. I'm struggling because I know them in Russian.
I will accept an answer in Russian. What is it?
Natri. Oh, it's Na. Natri. It's Na. N would be nitrogen.
Yes, nitrogen. Very
nitrogen.
Good.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna pick it up a little bit. Let's see. What about the letter V? Atomic number of 23. Do you remember that one?
Vanadi. No.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Vanadium.
Okay. Vanadium.
And apparently, because I do have an illustrated book here, it looks like vanadium is in Craftsman tools and wrenches and lock sets. So that's good. All right, let's go. We're going to go 2 more. We're going to pick it up a little bit. This is a tough one. I've never even heard of it.
Okay.
TM. TM.
Oh, shoot. TM. If it were TA, I would say TraceAir, but...
Well played. Way to bring it back to really why we're here. TM is thulium? Thulium? I don't even know what the hell that is.
Thulium.
Okay.
Could be.
Atomic weight of 1 point.
That's really fun because I kind of, they sound funny on Latin and in Russian, and in English they're all different. So.
All right. Last one here. Atomic weight of apparently negative 145. Does that make sense? Is that possible?
145. Yeah, why not?
Can it be a negative 145?
No, I don't think they mean negative. No. That's something different that they mean.
That's next level. That's beyond your PhD to have a negative atomic number. No, that wouldn't make any sense. PM. PM. Do you know the
polonium? No, polonium is PO. PM. Good question. I have no idea. I don't remember. What's that?
Promethium. Promethium. It sounds evil. All right. Thanks for playing along. You did well.
That's the best tool for our toddlers to humiliate us, right?
Yes. All right. So let's bring this back to why we're here. TraceAir. If people are interested, I think many folks that are listening, certainly the builders, will be absolutely interested. I also would challenge people who service builders. Part of the value they can deliver is new ideas and new innovations and better ways of doing things to eliminate some latent pain points that people have been dealing with for a long time building. And I think you guys can play a part in that. So put humility aside, tell people really directly where they can learn more about TraceAir and more about you, and reach out to you if they want to connect.
Of course, yeah. So please reach out to us. Our website is traceair.net.
Okay.
My name is, again, Maria Khokhlova. Please find me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to chat on any ideas you have in how we accelerate our beautiful, beautiful industry and site work specifically, because, again, TraceAir is on the mission to accelerate construction in general and site work specifically. And we are a mission-driven company, which means that it's not for us to stop somewhere in home building specifically, or to stop at site work specifically. Our mission as a company is to get to this futuristic future and really see that with our own eyes, where the construction is happening like we kind of read in our books in the childhood, where you click a button and you look at the screen and your city is growing and you just watch the progress bar, right? Like, people are awesome in the way how they create things, but actual execution shouldn't be painful and long. It should be fast because it's execution, right? So TraceAir is here to really accelerate this process and to bring all the creative ideas that people have in their minds, creating cities, creating new hospitals, creating new roads, all of that, bringing that to reality and making it as fast as possible. So please reach me out. I'll be happy to chat and share what we have in mind as our product roadmap and what we're going to do.
Great. Yeah. And again, it's TraceAir, TraceAir. Yeah. And I think whether it's heavy highway, whether it's vertical construction, certainly with home building, we have seen over the last couple of years that cycle times for individual homes as well as projects have gotten longer. And every day that we're not moving tenants in costs us money, and we have customers who always want to get in sooner. So I think you guys are playing a part into simplifying that. And I also think adding some innovation and technology, which I think in general our industry needs. So Maria, thanks for your time. I enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you, Bradley. Thank you so much.
All right, then, friend, how did that go? Hopefully you enjoyed my conversation with Maria. Let me know. Let me know if I did not fulfill my promise that this episode was not of value to you. Why? Because it's our commitment here to make this the best podcast you listen to. So if you have ideas for improvement, suggestions for guests or topics or anything else that you think will make this better, do not hesitate to email me directly at bradley@bradleyhartmanandco.com. If you want to make sure you never miss another episode, you should absolutely be signing up for our twice monthly. Every other week, we send out a newsletter that will include links to our latest podcast, as well as a small piece of writing, the best that I have to offer, with which our customers and friends are struggling with to help them run better businesses. You can go to bradleyhartmanandco.com. And if you scroll down to the bottom on literally every single page, and especially the blog page, you can sign up right there and join several thousand other construction leaders that have subscribed to it. And if you ever find that I took some of your attention undeservedly, you can always unclick with one button. But I'm going to tell you, I bust my ass every week to make sure it's worthwhile for you. I do not take that lightly. So again, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Capital One Trade Credit. If you're interested in increasing revenue while increasing cash flow, while decreasing risk, you should absolutely check out Capital One Trade Credit and see if their platform and their team of experts can help you achieve your dreams. That's right. That's what we're doing here in this podcast, trying to achieve some dreams. And one last thing before we go, I've had several people reach out to us directly about an interest in forming a new type of round table, getting folks together, sharing information among non-competitors about what they're doing in sales and operations. Several of the other folks who do this sort of thing seem to have some blatant conflicts of interest, as I'm told, and folks are looking for something new. So we are tentatively planning on something in 2023. If you would be interested in learning more or talking to me about your interest and how we could make something new and different and better, we are going to get involved in that. Because why? Well, some of our best customers want us to, and it's going to be fun, and we think we can add a lot of value. So if you might be interested, feel free to email me directly at bradley@bradleyhartmanandco. In the subject line, go ahead and put roundtable, and that will alert us, and we'll get right back to you. So that's all I got. Thanks for listening. We're going to close out like we always do. You, my friend, are owed nothing. Deliver value first. Make it a great week.